Hello and welcome to the Better Business Podcast. My name is Alexei, and today I've got some really interesting guests. I've got Andrew and Daryl Grant. How are you guys?
Hey, good.
How are you, Alex?
I'm good. And look, it's been a long time since I've met you guys. It would have been close to 25 years, or maybe a little bit over that. And I must say, guys, that you are the reason why I do what I do today. I do consider you guys as mentors, whether you realize it or not, because there's been quite a big change in my life since I met you, and the things that we've started doing, personally and professionally, has made quite a few shifts. So I know there's a ton of topics that we could potentially talk about today, but I specifically wanted to have a chat to you guys about mindset, because I do think it is one of those things that stops certain people from that change in their lives and really prevents them from achieving something. So let's talk about mindset, guys. How did you change in terms of mindset to get into all this digital marketing? And look, it's probably worthwhile for you to let the listeners know about, what it is that you've done and how you've transitioned to what you are doing today.
Sure. Well, before we get going too much further, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Daryl.
Sometimes
it gets confusing.
It gets confusing sometimes.
That's all right.
And look, thanks for having us on, and we're really excited to be catching up again. You've had a big impact in our success. You don't probably know, but you made things possible for us when we first started, as we knew nothing about internet, and you were the only person we knew that knew how to do websites and so on. So that's having you help us out when you're a lot younger then, but still had the smarts. So that's really exciting for us to be able to talk to you again. Mindset is a huge part of our success, and the more successful people I meet over the years, and the more further we go into our sort of journey, the more important I find it is in everything. And I had a friend say to me once, a sort of multi-millionaire friend say to me once, he goes, Andrew, I used to think it's 50% mindset, 50% effort, and he goes, no, it's actually 90% mindset, and and so on. So that's really exciting for us. Daryl, do you want to expand on anything specific about when we're starting?
Yeah, well, let's talk about some turning points for us in terms of mindset. So, Alex, I think when we first met you all those years ago, we were on a mission. We'd set a goal to get out of consulting. So we'd been working as management consultants for 15 years or so. Really exciting work. We were working with big companies. We were making a difference, working with government departments, changing direction and strategy for companies and for the population in general, which was super exciting. But it was very much hands-on. It was very much hours for dollars type of stuff, which was okay for us until our daughter came along, and then we realised we'd actually locked ourselves into a 7-day-a-week business that required us to be there, and it just wasn't giving us the lifestyle that we wanted. We just had no family time. So we went on a quest and decided we wanted to do something different. We actually set a 5-year goal to get out of consulting. And we were, I think, 4.5 years into that goal and absolutely no closer. We'd done a whole heap of stuff. We had a goal to buy 10 properties, and we did that. We did Forex trading, we did share trading, and all that happened is we were actually, I think, busier than before we'd set that goal. And then Andrew came to me about 4.5 years in and went, I've got it. We're going to make money online. And I kind of threw up my hands in horror and said, well, don't tell any of our friends about that. They'll probably all think we're selling porn.
Yeah.
I was completely anti the whole thing. But luckily, Andrew was a persistent man. And luckily, you were living next door to us, because with those two things, that really enabled it, once we did some mindset stuff, to make that shift, to make that change. And within 6 months, we were making about $20,000 a month online US, and it enabled us to actually achieve our goal of retiring from our consulting business on the actual date that we'd set 5 years before, so 13th of April 2005. Yeah, there you go.
What became clear to us is, and the reason that we were able to go ahead with the for us it was internet stuff, but I don't want you to get too caught up with internet. It was actually the fact that we actually changed our process, because all the other stuff that
our thinking
started, our mindset changed, and we identified blocks that we had towards making money, but not just making money, but making passive income. That was the key for us. Passive income meaning that you don't have to swap hours for dollars and so on. The systems that we're trying before, other people could get them to work, but we were finding it hard to get them to work passively for us. And it wasn't until we changed our mindset on things and we're able to do, or more accurately, work out what our thinking was that was blocking us from going forward, and so on.
So I think one of the big realizations for us was that there's actually a difference between what you consciously think you want and what you subconsciously are actually being driven to do.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until we identified where the disconnect was that things actually really changed for us. So on the surface of it, we were saying, oh, I want to make passive income. I want to retire from what I'm doing. I want to be able to, have this life of leisure. And that was a conscious statement. But we'll talk about some of the processes we used a little later, but just to give you an idea of how that conflict happens and why it wasn't working for us, what we discovered was that at a subconscious level, we actually had programs that were driving us in the other direction. So, for example, I had a subconscious belief drummed into me from my parents that good people work hard. If you're lazy and you're not working, then somehow you're, less valuable as a person. And so if I've got that subconscious belief that, good people work hard, then by retiring and making passive income, by definition, I'm not a good person and I have to make my parents wrong. So the way to think about it, I think, is a bit like an iceberg. There's the little tip above the water, which is the conscious statement, I want to make passive income. And you might be driving that in one direction, but all that 90%, which is under the water, the subconscious belief, which says, well, if I'm not working, I'm not a good person, is driving in the opposite direction. And so that, I think, was what was really stalling us from making things happen. The other subconscious belief that I found that I had was that I was getting a lot of my self-worth from the consulting work that I was doing, working at highest levels in big companies and in governments. It's you get an ego boost out of that, and it's nice to have that, to think, wow, I'm making a big difference here in a lot of people's lives. And so again, conscious, oh, I want to stop doing this consulting work. Subconscious, driving in the opposite direction, saying, oh, but what am I losing if I stop doing that? And so I think recognizing that sometimes there's a difference between what you consciously want and what you subconsciously really desire, I think is a big one.
What you just said there, what am I losing, is a real key. So people might say, look, I want to make X amount of dollars. Let's just say $1 million and so, hey, I want to make $1 million. Now, most people will have at a subconscious level or a conscious level a belief system. For me to do that, I have to do these other things. I have to give up something, or I have to do something that I'm not comfortable doing. It'll be something around having to give up, or I'm not comfortable doing it, and it makes me feel uncomfortable. And so they feel like, oh, well, I kind of want that, but I don't really want to do the work that's required, or I don't want to give up the thing that I need to give up. It's a bit like a little bit like smokers, Most smokers know that it's not, well, virtually every smoker knows it's not really good for them, and it's not pleasant in terms of, but they don't want to give it up. That's why they don't give it up. They want, now I'll tell you, it's hard. It's chemical addiction and all this other stuff. Well, yes, but there's something that they have to go through and do. And so it might be a bit uncomfortable, or it might mean they have to stop giving up something. And the thing they want to give up is that nice feeling they get when they smoke. They don't want to give that up until the desire to get the thing that you want's bigger than the thing you got to give up. That's what holds you back. Now, for most people, they don't recognize that. They don't understand that's what's going on, and they feel like it's the thing, getting that goal that they want is, just out of their reach. They can't understand why they can't get it. And consciously they want to get it, but subconsciously they've just got these anchors in the ground. So you have to cut the anchor ropes, so to speak.
Absolutely. And look, I think, you've nailed it on the head. The whole mindset side of things is so vast, and it covers so many different parts of I guess, change that a person really wants. I mean, most people understand that they need to set goals in order to achieve goals, but then achieving goals takes, a lot of self-discipline. And then self-discipline really requires a lot of changes in terms of habits. So you really need to understand how to go with your habits. And then the habits are pretty much attached to your beliefs, more or less. And you have to really change your belief system in order to impact everything else. And I do find that a lot of people are very good at setting goals and, trying to, change their lives. But then when it comes to the change, they're like, oh, I'd rather spend the time to watch Netflix as opposed to read something or attend a seminar or something like that. So in the end, it sort of comes down to resilience in a way, because people need to be resilient with their goals and really apply that self-discipline and do change their beliefs as well. And I do think that you guys do it so naturally. And I do remember visiting your house where you've always got, we always had a ton of books. You probably still do, where you walk in and Andrew
behind us.
Andrew would pull out a book on every single subject. But what I find interesting with those books is that every time you read it, you'd be a little bit skeptical. You'd be thinking, hey, that's an interesting concept. I don't find the practicality of it just right now in my life. It sounds good. But what's interesting over time, when you start implementing these things, you pick up that book that you read 10 years ago and it's like, hey, this makes perfect sense to me right now. But the experience is really what enables the magic from that book. So, for example, Robert Kiyosaki's Cash Flow Quadrant, probably one of the first books that Andrew told me about, and there's obviously a great game behind it as well. But the whole book itself talks about, hey, here's employed, self-employed business and investors, and this is how they function, this is how they think. But majority of people that I meet, hey, I fell into business because I was doing something really well. I started working for myself and now I'm stuck. I've got a business. Well, mate, you don't. It's not a business. You've created yourself a job and you can't get out of it. So what you're saying 100% applies to probably majority of the people I work with. So in terms of advice, so I work with a lot of trades. I work with a lot of professional services. What advice would you give those business owners in terms of, hey, they've created themselves a job, they work in those hours? I can 100% relate to what Daryl's saying. And I do remember, Daryl, you were very skeptical when Andrew was, trialing a lot of stuff. But, what does it really change to let go of that self-employed mindset and really go towards the business mindset, in your opinion?
Do you want to answer that or me?
Good question. So I'll start the answer and then you can continue on. How's that? So one of the things that we've always found as our business has grown, and over the last few years, we've done around $50 million in sales. So wow. Our business has gone pretty well from that start way back when. One of the things that we've found is whenever we find that we're repeating a pattern, and for some reason, every time we try something, we go back to square one. We just keep repeating a pattern. That's generally an indicator that there is some underlying belief which is doing what I talked about before. So we're saying we want to go in this direction, but there's a subconscious belief which is actually holding us back and stopping us from going in the direction that we want. So what tends to happen with businesses, and absolutely love Kiyosaki's model of the, employed, self-employed business owner investor, is that people get to plateaus. So when you go from employed to self-employed, you kind of go from here to here and you get to a plateau. And the changes that you needed to make to go from employee to self-employed, sure, great. You made some fantastic changes. You overcame a whole lot of barriers to do that, but it's not the end of the story. So what tends to happen is people end up sitting there at that plateau and don't go to the next level for a whole bunch of different reasons from the reasons that stop them from going from employee to self-employed. And so, Andrew, you often talk about actually having to become a different person in order to move from that plateau up to the next one. So it tends not to be a linear process. It tends, we find, to be a stepwise process. And as you identify and address some of those underlying things that are taking you in the wrong direction, that allows you to jump up to the next stage. But do you want to maybe talk about the importance of actually becoming a different person, not just wanting something different?
Yeah, you said before it takes discipline and so on. And that is true. But they're very good, important tools that you need to apply to be successful, delay gratification, discipline, all that kind of stuff. No doubt about it. However, for long-term change, you can't rely on discipline and so on, because and anybody who's ever done a diet will know this. Most people who are who are let me ask a question for the audience, listening audience. Have you ever done a diet, and you've set a goal and you've got your goal, but after you've reached your goal, a couple of months later or something like that, you might be back to square one, or you've sort of gone back from where you were before. Now, the reason for that, and that's very typical of virtually anything that people set goals for. In fact, the majority of people do that. And you've got to ask, so why do they do that?
And not just in diets.
Not just diets, in all sorts of things, relationships, all sorts of stuff, The reason that they do that is because they use what we call willpower or discipline to achieve that goal. They'll deny themselves stuff, deny themselves that ice cream or that extra bit of food or whatever that they want at a subconscious level or emotional. Let's just say call it emotional level. They'll deny that because consciously, at an intellectual level, then they know I shouldn't have that, and so they're using their willpower to overcome that, and they get results. The trouble is, you can't maintain willpower forever, or most people can't. At some point they get exhausted, or will want to relax, or they'll get a moment of weakness. We call it weakness, and then they'll revert back to something, and they go, "Oh, I've done that. Oh, that was really good," and then they'll go back to tight. And the reason for that is this iceberg analogy, because the willpower we talk about is the bit sticking above the water. When you've got the tide pushing you the other way, after a while, it's just a matter of time. When you relax, the tide will just push you back, and you don't have to think about it. You just do it naturally. That's where you want to be. And that's because you have a whole set of programming that says, this is where I'm the most comfortable. Okay. The sad news is, if you want to, is that you are exactly where you want to be at the moment. So if you're in a situation where you're not really happy about it, that's fine, but you've created that. For 99% of people who are listening to this, you've created your circumstances. You chose the person who you work with. You chose to not do the thing before or to do the thing before. It's all these decisions got you to where you are. And that generally happens at a conscious and a subconscious level. And it's all basically about how you feel. So to break this down into real simple terms, there's only two types of emotions that we have. There's the one that you want more of, and there's the ones that you want less of. I'll say that again. Two types of emotions, the one that you want more of and the ones that you want less of. And emotions, we just call them feelings. And the reason that that's important is because that's the language that your subconscious mind talks in. It talks in feelings. Your conscious mind talks in logic, and can work and be rational about things and so on. And so when we're having this conversation now, we're talking rationally, and we're having a conversation about put A and B together and you get this, and it's that sort of stuff. But your subconscious mind doesn't work like that. What it works on is feelings and images, really, feelings and images. And the way it talks to you is in feelings. So when you get presented with a logical explanation on something, sometimes people say, "Oh, my gut says this, don't do that." It all logically makes sense, and the gut says this. Now, sometimes your gut might be right and it might be wrong. People sort of talk up their intuition sometimes. "Oh, my intuition says this. I'm really intuitive." That just means that you've listened to your subconscious mind about all your subconscious mind's telling you from the framework that it's had prior to you getting to that point. It's saying that thing that you're about to make a decision on, that is either good or bad, and it'll give you a feeling. That's how it expresses it. It gives you a feeling. And so is it a feeling you want more of, or a feeling what you want less of? And if it's a feeling that you want more of, you'll generally drift towards that. If you're relaxed and you're not using your willpower, you'll just go towards that feeling you want more of. If it's a feeling you want less of, you will avoid it. And so what dictates those feelings? If I want more or less, it's the experiences and the programs, the belief systems that you've developed since you were probably before you can remember, right up until this present day about life. It's teaching you. So, if you meet a certain type of person, do they make your skin crawl, or do you get excited to meet that person? And people have different reactions. It's the same person, but they'll have different reactions. Why is that? It's because of the programming that you've had prior to meeting that person. And some people have a good gut for spotting a crook. Some people have a bad. Some people attract them like a plague. Some people have a good gut for attracting a good business deal. Others don't. When it comes to money, you will have a you'll have a system at a subconscious level about what's a good way to make money and what's probably a way that makes you feel uncomfortable. No, I won't say a bad way, but a way that makes you feel uncomfortable. So what way of making money makes you feel comfortable? What way makes you feel uncomfortable? For 99% of the population, because they've been trained this way, what makes them feel comfortable is getting a job, exchanging hours for dollars, and working somewhere. That's what makes people comfortable. And that's one vehicle for making money. Another vehicle is for people who want to get their own business, so be self-employed, which is probably a glorified way of exchanging hours for dollars and so on. And here's the answer to your question right back before. What you need to do is go to the next step and stop exchanging hours for dollars. And you need to start exchanging value for dollars. I'll say that again. You need to exchange value for dollars. And you can exchange value in information, or you can exchange value in a hard product, or the really way you exchange value is solve somebody's problem. And if the more problems that you can solve, or the bigger the problem that you can solve for somebody, when I say big problem, it can be simple for you, but the headache, the pain you can take out of their life, the more they're willing to pay you, the more value that is for them. So how do you do that? Well, first you've got to know what the problem is, then you create a solution for that problem, and you have a way of delivering it which doesn't require your hours. So you package up an information product, or package up a product. I've got a cup here that solves the problem. How do I get hot coffee into my head without burning myself and so on? How can I hold it? Well, this is a problem. This is a solution to a problem, this cup. And, we're talking on a Zoom call here at the moment. And we're in different countries at the moment. We're sitting in Thailand. Alex is in Australia, I assume.
Brisbane, yeah.
Yeah. And somebody solved that problem, and they made literally made $1 billion out of Zoom. That concept's been solved. Okay. That's because it creates value for us. We can have this conversation. You know what it used to take a few years, not too long ago, like 100 years ago, or not even 100 years, 50 years ago. We'd have to jump on a plane to have this conversation, or we'd be talking on a phone, which would be very crackly and expensive. We're doing it pretty much for free. I think so. That's a problem that's been solved, and a person's been given money for that. Now, what the money is just a way we keep track of value. It's just like the score sheet in a game, and I give so much value to somebody else, and they give me value back in the form of a receipt, which is called money. And so I can cash that receipt into somewhere else where I can get the value that I want back. So the thing that really rich people have done is they've just created a hell of a lot of value for people, and people want that. Now, what people get mixed up with is they feel like value has to be good or bad. No, it isn't. It just has to solve a problem, and that's why you can create value for somebody in dark areas, and you can create value for people in really wholesome, good areas. It doesn't really matter. Money doesn't care. It's just what's the value that somebody gets in their life. So hopefully that makes sense. Am I making sense there? I don't know if that's coming across.
100%. I think, you've gone pretty deep on the whole thing. And I'm not sure if you realize, guys, but since 2007, my business has been called Your Easy Web Solutions. So, it's actually right there. So I do remember you explaining that to me a while back. The issue now is my business has gone through quite a few transformations, and we're a digital marketing agency. We do a lot of Google stuff. We still build websites, but Your Easy Web Solutions doesn't quite reflect the whole thing. So listeners, please make sure you think harder than that. And, while I love the word solutions, don't call a business just around the one thing if you want to scale it. Anyway, guys, well, that's awesome. You've gone really deep, and I really appreciate that you've explained the logic behind the things. And I think, making a change often happens planned, but more often, it probably happens without planning, where an external factor influences someone. And I really want to sort of maybe just touch on the whole side of things when it comes to failures and mindset, because I do get quite a lot of people, really being afraid to fail. And I think the whole mindset of being afraid to fail is really what prevents a lot of people from success, as crazy as this might sound. So what's your take on that?
Wow, this is a good, really critical part of success, and something you need to understand. If you want to succeed, you must fail. failure is a part of the success formula. I'll say that again. If you want to succeed, you must fail. What you need to do, though, is learn how to fail in a way which enhances your success. And so we call that failing like a champion. And so there's funny you say this. I was listening to Elon Musk talk yesterday, and he says you've got to learn to not be scared of failure. He says most people won't do stuff because they're scared to fail. He says I'm scared not to do stuff. What you do though, what successful people do is they learn how to fail, have a system where they fail, but they fail quickly and cheaply. So what does that mean? You understand that not everything that you do, not every person that you employ, not every idea you come up with is going to work. You need a way to work out who's right for you, what idea is right for you quickly and easily. So do you want to maybe talk about some of our systems when we've set up business ideas?
I'll give you a really good example, a current one actually. We're going to be running a workshop in Australia shortly around this. And that is with, so these days what we do is we find experts, we wrap our marketing system around them, we help them promote what they do. So the current one we've got coming up is all about how to source Australian-made products. Now, most people think, oh, you can't manufacture stuff in Australia. You can't compete with, imports, particularly from places like China. The reality is you actually can, and it can work out better quality and cheaper if you know what you're doing. So the chap that we're doing this with, Steve Eagle, has this incredible system, but it is all built around overcoming or what Andrew said, rather than overcoming failures, failing fast, failing small, and then rolling out big when you succeed. So if we have a look at what most people do when they have a physical product sourcing business, the typical thing that they'll do is, they do an Amazon course or something like that. They learn how to come up with a product idea, how to go and find it on Alibaba, how to spend $10,000 on, a container full of inventory, get it shipped to Amazon, wherever they're going to be selling, whichever market, and then sit there and hope that it sells. And unfortunately, 95% of those businesses fail. They just don't work. And the reason for that is because they didn't have a system to fail small. They actually had to outlay thousands and thousands of dollars before they figured out whether or not they were going to have a business that succeeds. So with Steve's system, it turns everything on its head. He actually has an amazing analytical process that you put product ideas through, and before you spend a cent, you actually know, is this product something which has demand? So, is there a market for it? What's it going to cost me to get it manufactured? Can I get it manufactured in Australia? What can I sell it for? And therefore, how much profit will I make? How many do I need to sell, and how realistic is that? And based on all of that information, you can decide whether or not it's going to be a goer. And so out of any 20 products that you come up with, you might weed out 19. In other words, 19 of your ideas, if you'd gone down the standard model, you would have spent thousands of dollars on each of those 19 ideas to bring in the stock, only to have it sit in your garage as inventory and end up at the tip. And so by having a system where you weed that out first, it allows you to fail small and then roll out big with the really successful ones. The other really cool thing about Steve's system is that you actually then, before you even pay for the inventory, you go and find a customer and you make a bulk sale to them, so that when you do pay for your inventory, the customer has actually paid their deposit, which covers the cost. So that's kind of the second part of the story. But hopefully you get the idea of failing small, removing the risk, knowing what's going to work and what's not before you spend a cent.
So you sell it before you build it effectively,
yeah.
and you sell the idea, you sell the concept. But the idea itself, the 20 ideas that we talked about to start with, they're all based on what's the problem that we're solving. We go out and say, what do people really, what are they after? What do they want? What's their problem? And so that's all good, but it's not about what we think. It's about what the market.
Again, it's about providing value and solving problems.
So selling it before you build it. So that goes back to that problem. Now we've failed 19 out of 20 times, but we've failed in a way which is all on paper, costs us nothing, bit of time, bit of effort. and then we get to the one that we want to go. So that's comes back to that system. Don't be scared of failing. Just have a system that allows you to fail without losing the
Destroying
farm.
your life.
Yeah,
That's awesome. That's awesome. And it's such an enabler when you can create that demand beforehand, knowing that people have already paid you. That really gets you in the gear. And I think what that really activates is this belief system, because if you believe in what's happening and money makes it very real, that actually gets you in the gear straight away. So that could actually be the answer to some of our listeners who are thinking, hey, how do I make a change? Because sometimes they do need that extra reason. So this workshop with Steve Eagle, when is that, and how can the listeners find out more about it?
Nice. Thanks, Alex. So 2nd to the 4th of June on the Gold Coast at Mantra Legends. If you go to howtobuyaustralianmade.com.au, then that will take you to the registration page for the workshop. Free tickets, 3-day workshop, lots and lots of really great content. Steve is absolutely amazing. It's him on stage the whole time sharing his system. So
and be prepared to learn. It's not just it's not a sales fest.
There will be spreadsheets.
You will be learning.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'll make sure to put a link in the description of this event.
Thanks,
and is this an ongoing thing or is it once off? Because I will have people listening to this at a later
This is first time we've done one in 3 years for Steve because of COVID and everything like that. We thought, about time we do something live. Steve has his own coaching program that he runs, but he's kind of done that online and so on. But this is the first time we thought we'd do something live. So it's kind of be a fun gig, and we've got a lot of good stuff planned. And that's
howtobuyaustralianmade.com.au. There'll always be something on that website. If it's not a live event, there'll be some goodies there.
Yeah.
Hey, can I give you another quick example for people that are maybe not selling physical products? Because I know that that's not everyone's thing. Our whole business is based on selling information and so on, coaching programs. Oftentimes we talk to people, particularly if they're in the consulting, coaching, some sort of expert space, where what they think they need to do is swap hours for dollars. And we were certainly in that paradigm, that mindset when we were working as consultants. In order to provide value, we had an hourly rate and we were charging out per hour. And the other thing that we see people doing in the coaching and consulting space is they go, oh, I want to leverage my time. I want to package up my expertise and sell it as a system. And so what they do is they spend the next 6 months to 12 months to sometimes even longer building this big product so that they can, create this amazing system that they then go, oh, I think it's finally ready, having put my heart and soul into it. Let's launch it, only to find that they get crickets. So again, our whole system is around reducing risk, minimizing the cost of failure, because failure will happen. I absolutely guarantee it, by selling it before you build it. So with any of our coaching programs, what we do is we design it, we sell it, and then once people have bought, indicating that we've hit the mark, then we build the program. Now, we talk to a few people who go, oh, you can't do that.
That's that program going off.
That's the program fires off. You can't do that.
That's not right.
It doesn't exist. That's wrong. Yeah. Well, have a think about it. You are selling something which you're absolutely going to deliver. I'm not saying, take their money and then, oh, that was nice, bad luck. You're selling something which you are going to deliver. But the way you deliver it is you actually roll it out in a process where you deliver it live. So for a lot of our programs, we might be selling a $10,000 or a $20,000 or $30,000 coaching program. A large part of that program will be built after people have joined, as, for example, live group webinars. Now, that actually produces a better product than if you sit, in your office for 12 months building a product in isolation. If you build it with the input of clients, you are always going to come up with a much better product. They tell you what they want. They tell you where the gaps are. They tell you what else you want. You will always build a better product by doing it that way rather than doing it in isolation. What it means is that we can actually launch a brand new business within, just trying to think what our record is, 3 weeks. And we can go from 0 to a 6-figure income within a month or so. We have multiple times created 7-figure businesses within 12 months using that system.
Yeah. Well,
so it works.
I wouldn't have believed it if I wasn't a part of it. And look, this process, 100% I can relate to. And for those who are listening, Andrew and Daryl initially started with ebook websites, and the process was exactly this. We used to run this survey sites to get customer input on the actual topic that they basically wanted ebooks to be on. So we could actually,
their problem?
Yeah, to basically identify the problem and then basically future-proof it, if you like, based on that feedback, and then create a product specifically to that. Now, that was a really, really cool way to sort of tap into the market, but I can see that you've revolutionized that concept and really amplified that into a completely different scale. That's excellent, guys. So I guess working with Steve Eagle, and I know you guys have obviously worked with quite a few people in the past, JVs, that's really one of the ways that you promote your business. And I remember Andrew telling me a long time ago, and I do like telling this to a lot of my customers, that, JVs is all really about finding the people who have your customer before you and are not in competition with you. And this is where you naturally can connect with them without really any obstacles, and you can have a decent conversation because everybody can instantly see the value in ventures like that. So can you just maybe tell us a little bit about joint ventures and I guess how that's worked for your business? Because in my understanding and in my observation, that's probably been the most powerful form of marketing in your business. Would you agree?
Yeah, what it's done is it's really allowed us to leverage what we do. One of the challenges for me is I get bored very easily. And if I'm not, busy and doing something new and fun, then I'm a nightmare to live with. Would that be accurate?
No.
Careful what you say.
So
you're delightful.
So I can very easily revert to getting really busy and creating coaching programs and doing all this cool stuff. And, before too long, I've got my time all full up again. When we moved to Thailand, which is nearly 10 years ago now, which is a story in itself. We have a portable business. We can live wherever we want. I'm looking out over, the bay to the islands here in Thailand. It's absolutely stunning. And that lifestyle didn't happen by accident. It is really very much a part of what we're talking about here, about being able to leverage, move out of swapping hours for dollars. But the challenge for me was not to revert back into that swapping hours for dollars. And a really great solution for us has been doing joint ventures. Now, for us, the joint ventures entail us with our marketing system, which is sell it before you build it, design it, sell it, build it after that. But instead of us being the experts, we find experts that we wrap our system around. So we knew nothing about product sourcing when we first started working with Steve Eagle, but we knew how to sell his concepts. So, Steve's absolutely genius at what he does. What we often find with geniuses is they're good at what they do, but not necessarily good at teaching what they do. And so our system is about packaging up people like Steve and marketing them. We do the same thing with Kerry Fitzgibbon, with Facebook, with Greg Vinyl, with Podcasting for Profit. There's a whole heap of people that we've worked with in a whole bunch of really interesting areas. People like Ben and Sherry Jones with their Youth in Business program, helping teenagers to become financially free before they finish school. Lots and lots of different ones that we've worked on. But for us, the joint ventures are really about having those complementary skills, I guess. We've got the marketing, they've got the expertise. We have a very structured, proven system that we wrap around anyone's expertise, and then we just simply go halves in that business. So for us, it's very leveraged. It gives us the lifestyle that we want, living here on the beach in Thailand, and doing what we want essentially with the time and the money. And that for us is the definition of freedom. That's
excellent. That's music to my ears. Lifestyle design, love that sort of thing. I do remember. Andrew telling me about Tim Ferriss's 4-hour work week, but back then it all sounded like a bit of a phony, to be honest. But when you sort of look at it now, it is really quite a guide or a recipe, if you like, that you guys have implemented quite successful. So that is awesome. Now, if anyone wanted to find out a little bit more about you or wanted to reach out directly, what's the best way to sort of contact you? Is there a website or is there a particular way people can reach out?
These days, we tend not to work one-on-one with people. As I said, we have all these other businesses that like Steve's one and so on. But if you go to andrewanddarylgrant.com, you will find a few bits and pieces there. I'll put something up on the website. How's that? So that anyone who's listening to this, if you want to get in touch with us directly, if you're an expert and you like the idea of building a 7-figure business in the next 12 months and it looks like there's something that we can do together, I'll tell you now, we do not take on everyone. We get far more offers to work with people than we actually take on these days. But, I'm always interested in new fun projects and we do have a very structured system to do that. So andrewanddarylgrant.com and feel free to contact us through that. We'll see what we can do.
That's excellent. Well, look, guys, I really do appreciate the contribution to Better Business Podcast, because for me, getting a podcast with you has been on the books for quite some time. And I think that picking mindset as the topic is definitely a good way to go. For those business owners who are listening, I do think that your job is really more to do with inspiration, motivation, and education. And hopefully you got that from this podcast by listening to Andrew and Daryl, because there's really quite a lot of insights here. And hopefully we made some pretty good references as well. Guys, really appreciate your time and really do appreciate to get you together on this call to record a podcast. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks for having
Alex.
us.
Awesome to catch up.
Thank
All
you.
right, guys. Well, for anyone enjoying this podcast, make sure you subscribe on YouTube and you also hit the like button on whichever platform you're watching. And if you got any suggestions for speakers or you want to reach out to any speakers, comment below and make sure, to get in touch. Ciao.
See you later. Bye-bye.